take that.
Hello. Hello. Thank you. You know what? The music is this app. Please, just I don't even want to talk to you until you let me know if there's an echo. I'm not answering that question. Is there an echo? That's the only thing I'm concerned about at this point. That's been my oh man, listen. Like not even a little bit of echo, like not even the speaker in the background. Please. Oh my God. And you can hear me clearly too, so answer both of those in one question. Yeah, it's been crazy. Excuse me. I know that was probably loud, but I've been working hard. Oh my God. Please tell me you not joking, man, because since the first episode, this sound has been a what do they call it, a thorn in my heel. It's definitely been my Achilles tendon. Whatever, if you know the story about Achilles. As weird as it was, I used to get into Greek mythology, as crazy as that is. And I always remember the story of Achilles because his weakness was his Achilles heel. You know what I mean? So, oh my God, thank you. So I don't even have a guest tonight. I spent most of my time actually trying to. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! I feel like I should rap for y'all or something like. Now that the sound is correct and loud. No, I'm stripping. Don't, do not, do not judge me on my poor rap skills. But yeah. So tonight I'm just gonna talk about a few things, and it shouldn't take. Thanks. So I don't know. You know what? I actually be trying to show the chat on the screen, but it really don't show up, and I hadn't figured that out. But hey, that's what haters do. They gonna hate on my rap skills, period. But I'm not worried about that. So, but my goal has been to make sure that the sound was good, everyone can hear me well, especially before I get somebody on here again, because that last one, it sounded like, man, somebody even came on and was like, yo, you sound like robots. And they were actually being generous because it actually sounded worse than robots, to keep it 100. It sounded like we were both just sitting around hollering at each other in a tin can. That shit was crazy, bananas. But so I do these lives, and they're live. So if I have issues, I just deal with the issues. And ironically, one of the things I want to talk about is this process. So I struggle, and I don't delete the video. So if you want to hear how bad last Tuesday was, it's still up there. Or if you even if you try to listen to it, you already know how terrible it sounds. But the ironic thing, the echo has been a consistent thorn in my heel, and this last week I guess it kind of came to a head because previous weeks you can listen to the show and not, be bombarded with me sounding like hello, 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 hello. So my goal really was trying to get an echo sound, and I don't delete the videos because I really do want this process to be authentic and vulnerable, so people get to see what the hell happens and what goes on. And sometimes it's a mess, for real, for real, for real. But I will definitely work hard to have a guest for next week so we can do at least a reading, or I do tentatively have an interview scheduled for next week, and they specifically were like, "Yo, I want to do it live in studio." So I guess they just want to be in the vibe. I got a couple of interviews that are going to be live in studio, but this is one, and it's wild to call this a studio, but hey, that's what it is. So, but the things I want to talk about today has been a slight theme for myself. Like I said, tonight's show ain't gonna be that long. These are my little note papers because I definitely do try to come in prepared somewhat. So I do have notes on things I want to talk about, and a theme that has kind of been coming up for myself and in the readings that I do, even if it shows up with the pendulums that I pick, because I pick this blue, which is a royal blue, and then I have this purple, which is amethyst for the most part. I don't even know what the royal blue is. I just call it by the color. But the thing that I found out in my own spiritual journey is that royal blue represents my anger, and that purple, that amethyst, represents my pain and things of that nature. But so in trying to help other people heal or purge some of their past traumas or whatever you want to call it, two things that I feel like I'm very good at, because those are the things that the burdens that I carry is anger and pain. So, the first thing I want to talk about is anger, and anger shows up in a lot of the readings that I do, and it's an interesting concept because for the most part, when we think about anger, there's generally negative emotions or negative connotations are tied to that, right? But when we really think about healing and light work and walking into our best self, you know what I mean? We have negatives and positives. And the thing about some of our negatives, we don't always look at how the opposite coin of our quote unquote negative attributes could be a positive. So for me, excuse me, one reason why, yeah, I wore my tie today, trying to be clean a little bit. But one reason why anger is a consistent theme in in my life is, if people know me, I'm an angry person, right? And the thing about it is it doesn't exhibit the same as a mad person. So I don't take my anger out on people or anything like that, but I do carry situations and experiences that rightfully I can feel anger about. And when I do these readings, that is one thing that comes up for people, anger. You know what I mean? Which is rightfully so. But the other side of the coin for anger is really passion. So as I'm on this journey myself, you know what I mean, I am learning to deal with my anger and make sure I flip it around to the positive side of anger, which for me is passion. So something I wrote down to make sure I say to people is, "Hey Sherry, boo 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 boo." Hey, if y'all don't know Sherry, my love bug. At least somebody said Sherry's my love bug, but she ain't my love bug. I told y'all that before. But somebody was mad at me before. It was crazy. Oh, do you see the comments on the screen? Michelle, you must be on YouTube. And it's the YouTube. The Facebook comments don't show on the screen, but the YouTube do. Jesus Cristo. Maybe if I put it on multi-stream. And if I put it on multi-stream, it still don't show. Michelle, man, listen, let me tell you something. I appreciate you. For real, for real. You be supporting my Thursday night books and whatever I do on Tuesday night, because Tuesday night just be all over the place. Tuesday definitely needs to be real random with Ross Rothschild over any night. But unfortunately, you still my second number one fan, but my number one fan is always here. So, all right. But anyway, like I was saying, the thing about anger is the other side of the coin for me, and what I try to get people to understand. The other side of the coin for anger really winds up being passion. You know what I mean? And when you take that anger, you can formalize that and put it in a way where it can be passion. So one thing that I want you to always think when you're dealing with your anger and angry situations is anger is the neighbor of passion. And I'll give you an example. So when I say I'm an angry person, I'm not mad. So most people who deal with anger or anger issues aren't mad. They're not sitting around. Yes, it is alchemy for the most part. So they're not sitting around taking their anger out on everybody else. But one of the things they wind up having is conflict for the anger they may feel for past experiences. So one thing that to give you an example of one thing that fuse my anger slash my passion is an experience I have with my pops. So you know when your parents passed, my pops was kind of, I love him, but he was absentee at periods in my life for his own reasons and him dealing with his own issues. Some of the same issues that I'm trying to make sure I heal from, so I don't repeat those generational curses or so forth. So, the one thing that you kind of hope for is when your parent passed or something like that, at least, especially if this parent was somewhat of an absentee parent, for lack of better words, you hope that they leave you something, right? And it really doesn't matter how small, but it kind of does. You want something that kind of is a springboard for whatever you need to do in your life. You know what I mean? And I have an older brother, and my older brother and myself, we have different fathers. And the one wild thing about that is, like, even though I say my father was absentee, it was sometimey. You know what I mean? So sometime he was there, sometime he wasn't. When it comes to my brother's father, his dad was never there. It was no question. He was never, ever, 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 ever going to be there. And with my pops, at least I got stories and all this stuff. Even me and my brother one time lived with my father in California for a couple of years. So, that's the kind of guy my pops was. So I fully understand how my mama could marry a man like that and have children with a man like that, even though he necessarily didn't turn out to be the best father or husband. I just know how you go down that path. And now, so sometimes when I think about my pops, I don't always have a lot of experiences or stories to tell. And sometimes that actually makes me angry, right? So this is the example of the normal anger that most people deal with. So as you're experiencing things, and sometimes when you think about things, and you just reviewing your own life, some of the experience that you have gone through, you rightfully can be angry about that, right? And that is an okay thing. You know what I mean? So the thing where anger winds up being bad, if it crosses over to being a mad person and you just taking that anger out on everybody, or if you allow that anger to be the emotion that you stay in and you don't use that anger to fuse something positive. And remember, like I said, the other side of anger is really passion for the most part. So you can take that anger and create something out of passion and love. Yes. And that is how one of the comments say bitterness. So that is literally how you do escape the bitterness. Because if you reside in that anger, it will wind up being some sort of bitterness for you, and you don't want to carry that in because that is an emotion that definitely is an emotion that hinders and keeps you from reaching your full potential, and that's just an honest observation. So like I said, you can have situations and experiences that actually make you feel angry, right? But what you want to do is also remember, like I said, passion is the neighbor of anger. So you want to make sure you take that anger, feel it for a little while, but flip that coin over and create something that's passion. And so the next thing is with this anger thing, which is wild because it kind of ties into the next thing I want to talk about, and another theme that has been kind of showing up in my life is hardness, an emotional hardness, an emotional wall, an emotional barrier. And that's specific to myself, but it actually allows me to recognize that in others. So one thing that I do in doing this healing and things like that, I interact with all types of people. And there is a type of people that I do interact with that builds that anger that I was just speaking about inside of my heart. And the ironic thing about that is it doesn't just this feeling doesn't just stem from my experiences in whatever this realm is, this healing, whatever this is. It doesn't stem from that. It actually stems from my professional realm. And in my professional realm, I deal with a lot of federal grants, federal I deal with a lot of federal funds, state funds. I deal with money that if you mess up, you go into jail, right? And one thing I used to always tell my staff and people who were under my leadership, like, yo, for real, yeah, I take this career dealing with children and families very serious. So one thing that I'm gonna expect y'all to do, and what I expect y'all to remember, is we are stewards of this field, and it is our job to make sure that we clear this field of people who are giving our field a bad name, or people who are just not doing the right thing by the field itself, whatever that may be, whether it be research, whether it be actually directing with children, working with children and families, whether it be working with the people who work with children and families. We are stewards of this field. So as I transfer over into a new realm, I still feel as though I'm a steward of this field. And as I'm telling people to go out and go on this healing thing, I do feel like it's my duty to give you some sort of advice. So you definitely don't have to go with me on this process. And I'm not asking anyone to. What I'm doing is sharing my process. And if what I do vibes with you and you want to connect with me and we can try to do some healing together, that's cool. We can do that. But ultimately, I do really want you to vet who you have doing this process. And one thing that you really do want to know is you want to know that the person that you have helping you heal is healing themselves as well. And they're living in that healing energy. And the ironic thing about that is how the first example that came up in my life is I'm going to set up um excuse me, a purge ceremony for one of the previous guests on one of the previous people that I read live. So we're gonna do a purge ceremony, and I'm talking about the people or the energies that I will bring with me. You know what I mean? So if I'm doing any type of group healing, it's not gonna be me alone. I go to my tribe. I go to the people that help me, the people who have done the work to be able to try to help other people purge their traumas. And I'll talk about this one person, and the person that I'm trying to schedule the purge ceremony with is like, yo, I'm not trying to have that energy in my purge ceremony. Not because that's a bad person, but there's aspect of this healing that they aren't necessarily living. So if they're not necessarily living the advice that they're giving you, they're going to bring in a different type of energy, right? And I was like, damn, you know what? And I always think about that as it relates to my career, children and families. But I'm new to this field, so it's a matter of learning the dynamics and learning what kind of skill sets are transferable and what I can use for the next thing. So back to this idea of stewards. So now it makes me think about the energy. And as much as I talked about people and going into light work and doing the light work and all that, like I know it's shadow work. You do some shadow work, that's all good. But we gonna live in the light on this side. You dig? So we stewards of the field, and one thing that I do want to do is, like I was saying, caution people about who they have doing the healing work on them or who they interact with. You definitely want to make sure that you're dealing with people who are doing the healing. And I say this because like I was saying, I interact with all types of people. And the one person that gives me the most frustration is the person that looks at the what we do, and makes it seem like I can do that. It's so easy. So then next week, the next thing you know, they're spiritual advisors or they're guiding people on healing. And I know for a fact they haven't taken any of those steps themselves. You know what I mean? So this person is going to be a person who's trying to heal you and bringing their own traumas that they haven't purged or dealt with themselves. So when you go out here and you find the people to work with you, please make sure you vet the people that you're dealing with, because you have to be mindful as you're trying to purge energy that also leaves a void for energy to replace. And you don't want to purge a negative experience, and because the person you're working with brings a negative energy as well, they fill that void with their negative vibes or whatever. So you don't want to deal with that energy at all. So do your vetting. And that again, that is one of the reasons why I'm so transparent on my page. Like, yo, y'all seeing me, because if you know me, I damn sure am not the type of person that is going live on Facebook and YouTube every week or no weirdo stuff like that. I'm a very private person. Hell, for the first shit, what you want to say, 10 years, I ain't even used my real name on Facebook. So you not going to find who I am. That's how private I am. But now I'm in a space where I want to be able to give people what I have, and I actually have the emotional availability to give it when I can. I want to make sure that I'm transparent and vulnerable, and I'm doing all the things that I'm asking of other people. You know what I mean? So if you refer somebody to me, or if you know me yourself and you want to see if I'm talking crazy, it's a whole timeline of at least a certain level of my healing process. Once I started this Reiki and this internal healing, that's pretty much a timeline on my social media. And once I tapped into that, I knew it was something that I wanted to give to the people, because it's a universal energy where people want something, they really want something different. And I'm with you. We all in the same boat. So I don't know if this stuff helps you or not, but I'm gonna put it out there, and hopefully you can connect to it. And if you do connect to it, holla at me. Maybe we connect a little bit more. But ultimately, you do definitely don't want anybody, just anybody, because this healing, especially if you're a person looking for some sort of spiritual guidance or some sort of trauma healing or something like that. Yo, people use just like religion and anything else. People use it to do whatever they want to. You know what I mean? So you please just vet your people that you're dealing with and make sure that they're actually doing the work before they start trying to tell you what you should do. And that is my transferring of me being a good steward of my field into this new field as a I don't even know what to call myself. I guess I kind of settled on spiritual advisor. I've had that's the best I got for you. But yeah, I just want people to make sure that they're making good choices. And that was something I wanted to talk about. So let me take a look. I'm gonna get thirsty on this, so I'm not even finished. So the next thing that I want to talk about, which is weird because it kind of ties into the last thing about being a steward, is I guess it's a theme of walls and borders and boundaries and a certain level of hardness. So listen, one of the comments says the vetting process is very important. You can't fill with a broken or an empty vessel. And that is the truth. And the thing what winds up happening is the people have good intentions. You remember what I talked about intentions? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So people a lot of times have the best intentions. They are just like me. They're just excited. They feel like they've heard about something or they tapped into something or they touched something that can actually, you know what I mean, that speaks to them. So they ready to share. But yo, you know, like I know, man, when you going on this healing path, it hurts. It's not easy. It's not painful. I mean, it is painful, and it's not always physical pain, but sometimes it winds up being a weird physical pain. But it's not easy. And I don't even want to make it seem easy. And I don't like when people just be like, yo, I'm about to do this now. Like it's easy. But yo, I'm telling you, if if you have me laid hands, if you have me read energy, if you have me do anything, this thing comes with tears. It comes with all types of things. I mean, it comes with a lot. But one thing I'm going to guarantee you, this healing process comes with 10,000 tears, which is also going to come into my story because this healing process has me as raw and vulnerable as I ask all anybody else that comes on here to be. It just has me the same level of raw and vulnerable. So the question that has been coming up in my own personal life has been about hardness, right? Ah, you heard it is not for the weak. Listen, listen, hey, and these are people, man, they've actually experienced a little bit of the laying hands, and it's literally, man, people are so touch deprived that when you start touching people, you actually can move energy around. And sometimes that thing gets to move in places, and if you don't want to cry and that energy is sitting in your throat trying to make you cry, or that energy is your identity, it winds up being very difficult to let go. Or if that experience has intertwined with your energy. Like I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I was telling him my homeboy because he wants me to do services for him and his girl, which is a beautiful thing. The ironic thing about this, when people reach out to me about the services, the wildest thing about it is it seemed like the men generally reach out. They be like, yo, I want to do this for me and my family. And the wild thing is women reach out and they be like, I want to make sure I'm straight and then we can make everybody else straight, which both perspectives are very valid. They're just different. You know what I mean? But like I was saying, it's not easy. So as I heal people and we become connected, these people also understand that we are in the boat together. So they question me and test me and push me across my boundaries just as much as I may ask someone else. And the theme that has been coming up regularly has been my hardness or my boundaries or my personal walls. And the thing about it is, and it's funny because you can even tell as I talk about it, my natural instinct is to become more closed off. You know what I mean? So this is how you can see I'm going through the process with everyone else because when I'm first talking, I'm open, and when I'm talking about something that's a little difficult, you can see my natural instinct or my natural body movements is to close off a little bit. But you know what I mean? That's just to guard myself, protect myself, and you too can pay attention to your behaviors and mannerisms because they will show up just like that. You know what I mean? You give unconscious signs and unconscious symbols of things that you are uncomfortable with, whether you want to or not. And there are people in this world who are just like me who can pick up on that and who are also trained to pick up on something as simple as crossing your arms. So, and the wild thing, what winds up making this hardness a difficult concept for me to break through on is because I'm a kind person. I'm a thoughtful person. I can, man, listen, there is there is hella studies on body language and power positions. This can be seen as a power position. Sitting with your legs crossed can be seen as a power position. Sitting back like this is a power position. But it also says, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? So it depends on what you're trying to. But body language just speaks, sometimes body language speaks louder than actual verbal language itself. But in my hardness and trying to think about how hard I have become, I think about it in my personal life. You know what I mean? Like I've gone through personal experiences and relationships and you know what I mean? And poverty and homelessness and all types of things that I've gone through, which is surprising because you see me sitting here now and you never would have thought that literally when I graduated from, which is crazy, when I was in college, I graduated from college, everything I owned was in the car that I was living out of. And no one knew this at all. So, you know what I mean? Life is interesting. But you know, when you go through experiences like that, you feel like it's a straight line to those experiences that have helped create a certain level of hardness or a certain level of guardedness inside of you. And that would be true, right? And the thing that wound up being a complicated thing for me was I had to start thinking about who I used to be. And for me, I always been a person who just wants to joke and laugh and make people feel better. I say, like I said in a couple of lives before. Hopefully, well, it definitely was one with an echo. But you know, the average 4 or 5 year old laughs like 700 times a day, and the average adult laughs like two. But if you kicking it with me, you gonna laugh 132 times a day because I'm about that. I wake up on that bullshit. But I just like to like I know there's a time for seriousness and all that stuff, but for me, when I think about who I was and who I've always wanted to be, is a person who just wants to enjoy life and help others enjoy life, which makes sense. Here I am now trying to help others figure out ways where they can enjoy life. And then I had to really think about how did I become this way? And the one thing that wound up showing up that I never really thought about was my career. So when you work in education, and my career for myself has been like I said, it's prenatal. So before the baby is born to 5 years old. So those are the children and families, and that's the funding that I deal with outside of community economic development and rape prevention programming that I deal with funding on that as well. But I really have to think about what other things. So now this week, I'm doing this healing thing, but the other thing that I also do is I do consulting. So I do educational consulting on all types of things. So I can do trainings and just all types of weirdo things. So I wound up having an interview with a consultant agency, one that I've been trying to get with for a little while, one that I actually admire, the staff that I've interacted with and everything. And then they asked me a very simple question. So in my personal career, I'm at the level of executive director. And in this interview, they didn't see their position as the same. They saw their position as lower than executive director. So the guy asked me, he says, so why do you want to give up power and influence and money to do this consulting position, right? And throughout the interview, I was talking to them, and this is all context. So remember, I've been doing this healing and this Reiki, and I'm asking people to be vulnerable, and I'm vulnerable, and you never know when this shit is going to hit you. And sometimes, if you're not doing the healing properly, it hits you in the most inopportune times. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about the interview and I'm telling them, as they asked about me being the executive director and all that stuff, and I'm telling them about my experiences, and I'm thinking, and my answer just really winds up being, I never really wanted to be that person. And throughout the interview, the person that I had described was, I remember one of the hardest things that was ever that I ever had to do and have to do well, had to do in my career was terminate people, right? And there's a certain level of disconnect that you have to do to get there, right? So, but anyway, so I'm telling these people how I never really wanted to be that person, and in the middle of telling them how I never really wanted to be that person, whoever that person is that you have to be an executive director, I ain't want to be that person. And in that interview, it hit me. I am so far from who I wanted to be under the guise of a career and something that I love because I did love my career. So I've gone so far under a love and I've had to build specific walls and specific guards just to be able to endure this love that I call my career and working with children and families. And it has made me hard, right? So one of the aspects of being a teacher or an educator that they don't tell you is this. I remember, and all of this stuff is coming to me while I'm in this interview. And when I say I start crying in the interview, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm like, when you get that lump in your throat, I'm like, this can't be the cry lump in my throat. So I get my breath. I'm always talking about breathing. I try to take my breath, and as I take my breath, like, yo, that tear comes out like, wow. And I'm in the interview. I'm so embarrassed. And it's not in person, but it's on camera. So these people see me crying in the interview, and the more I think about it, I'm like, yo, I'm really crying in the interview. This is crazy, bananas, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm going through this. But after the interview, of course, they tell me everything's okay and all this crap. But for me, I can be that word hard on myself. So crying in an interview is something I struggle to come to terms with for myself because of how hard I can be on myself, which in turn makes me hard on other people, which I understood that dynamic of hardness. And then both of my parents was military, and I understood that dynamic of hardness, but I didn't understand how my career also was making me a certain level of hard that I never want to be. And so I become a preschool teacher. And this is probably like the first time where I really feel this. Uh, um, Definitely, someone said that in love, sometimes we lose ourselves, romantic, career, family, etc. And that's the God honest truth. And a lot of times we can visualize how that happens in romantic relationships, but we're not always aware of the walls or the barriers or the hardness we create in other aspects of our life just to endure something that we love. Because and to this day I still tell people be very careful about making something you love your career, because once you do it becomes your job, and you do lose aspects of the love for it. And part of the reason you lose aspects of the love for it is who it makes you become. So I'm sitting here and I become a preschool teacher. And this is a biology background guy. I tell you, I'm a scientist by nature, teacher by heart. So I'm in here. I got hella stories with these 4-year olds, right? I get my first class. I probably got the meanest co-teacher ever. But by the end of the year, even me and her vibe, and she like, yo, you like my son? You taught me so much, and I felt good because I ain't know what the hell I was doing. I ain't know a damn thing about education, especially with me coming from a science background. So I'm out here winging it, and my whole goal is to not harm anybody's children. I was like, those don't let me mess nobody kid up so bad that they can't bounce back. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? I'm free. I'm doing my thing. And now it comes the end of the year, and you have this end of the year celebration, and you be like, oh my God, I'm so excited to see my kids move on and all that. And then it actually hits you that you spent this whole year building relationships with people that you may never, ever, ever, ever see again in life. And to be able to endure that for 1, 2, 3, 10, 15, 20 years, you have to build a certain wall and a certain level of hardness where you don't wonder. And the bad thing about that is, as an educator or a teacher, there are still kids that slip through the cracks. You wonder about. You follow their family, you become friends with their parents, you can see them grow up, but overall that still have does not have any weight compared to the amount of relationships you built. So with that 1 year, I had 22 kids in that class. So now I'm moving on to my second year, and I got a new set of 22 kids in my class, and I'm building these new relationship with these kids. And now I know I may never see these mofos again. And that's a wild trauma to live in and a wild thing to deal with. So you do have to create a certain level of barrier. And then, so now I got this barrier, right? And a certain level of hardness. And then I think I'm smart, right? I'm going to go into supervising. And before I got into supervising, one of the probably the best advice I got was, you ain't gonna like it, but go ahead and try it. And you go into supervising for the money, but being a leader or whatever, that shit sucks ass. Period. And that's just me being authentic. You on here with me? I'm an authentic person. So, but what made me go into leadership is that I saw that there were no shortage of good teachers, but there were actually a good shortage of leaders, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna go into leadership and I'm gonna make a difference and I'm going to protect the people who can't protect themselves, right? And then I get into leadership. And one of the first things you learn about leadership, because it was just ironic about me, on my position, whenever I get a position, I wind up having to do a lot of I have to do a lot of so one of the comments say you build walls to stop giving away pieces of yourself. And that is partially true. But in this case, it's not necessarily to not give pieces of myself away, because every year in working with these children and these families, I give them all that I got. So if people who have been under my leadership. Like I talked about Cherry, because she be on here sometimes with my love bug. She understands. She's been under my leadership. She's been under my guidance, and I give the best that I got. You know what I mean? And sometimes just the dynamics, the rules of the position. You have to build walls so that you can be successful at the position. Not that you're not giving yourself. Better example be the next one. So when I move into leadership, I wind up getting a supervisor, and it's wild. So for her, leadership is terminating mofos, right? So I remember she taught me, like, yo, her first time as a supervisor, she fired 15 people, her whole department like that. And that may not sound like a lot. And I've learned in my life, because I fired more than 15 in 1 year, it ain't a lot, but it is. So for me, I never wanted to be the type of person that take food out of someone's mouth. So I hiring people is okay. It can be fun. Interviewing sucks, but er, hiring people can be okay. But interviewing is okay, and it can be fun, but terminating sucks ass. I never wanted to take food out of someone's mouth, and now I'm in this position to take food out of someone's mouth. And at initially, I have control, so I can do the best I can to help someone to keep their job, not having to terminate them or anything like that. And I can help them so where we get to a point where if I wind up having to terminate them, then excuse me, it must be still growing. If I wind up having to terminate them, I can tell myself that I've done all that I could. But then it's around, I don't know, what was it, 2013, 14? Sequestration shows up. I wind up having to fire like 20 people, and I don't got no control over that. To be able to take food out of people's mouths, whether you're right, whether they earned it, regardless of the reasons, to be able to do that, to change people's lives that's like that in a way that you know is going to be negative, you have to put up a certain barrier for yourself so that you don't live with the trauma of what you're doing. So, and for me, I got into being a supervisor, and it allowed me to build a new barrier that created a certain level of hardness that shows up in this interview of me crying. So I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna go. I'm tired of supervising a bunch of people. I'm gonna go to the next level. I'm gonna supervise just about 3 people. You know what I mean? So I go into whatever level of leadership. Psst, listen, thick skin. One of the comments say thick skin. One of my favorite quotes. People can feel whatever they want to about Barry Bonds and the next position that I talk about, the next level of hardness that my career created. Barry Bonds is a perfect example of this. Now, I'm not in one of those people who get caught up on if he was juicing or not. I don't care. Barry Bonds gave me one of my favorite quotes in life, and I literally live by this. And it just kind of it's a very simple quote, but it just kind of lets you know the burden. you know what I mean, that being a leader comes with. So one thing they asked him, and Barry Bonds was like, to be number one, you got to have some broad shoulders. So, yep, you do have to be thick skinned. And that is the wall, that is the hardness. We may call it thick skin, but to be able to endure something that I love, I have to create thick skin. That is not a healthy dynamic. You know what I mean? So I go into um, being the executive director, and now I'm leading people. And when you get at, I'm leading everybody, not just what I mean. Ain't nobody telling me what to do. I talk to the board. I even talk trash to the board. I don't care. You know what I mean? And at this point, I got into this field to be about the people, the children, and the families. And when you get to executive director level, the last thing that this is about is children and families. It's about numbers, whether those numbers be data or whether those numbers be budgets. It's all about numbers. And some of the decisions that you have to make can be interesting. And from a moral standpoint, they can do stuff to you morally, even though they may be a smart business decision. It still may be a moral conundrum. So, like terminate somebody. When I terminate somebody or when I fire somebody, shit, most of the time they earned that. You know what I mean? So it was a very good business decision, but it still created a moral conundrum for myself because I'm still knowing that I'm taking food out these people's mouth, and I don't know how long they may be off their feet. You know what I mean? So that shit bothers me. Now I'm in here as executive director, and it's all numbers and people, and now you fighting with other people with power. Now it becomes very political, and now I'm so far from the person who just wanted to laugh, joke, enjoy life, and help others enjoy life for the sake of a career and for the sake of making it better for other people. For my love, I've allowed my love to take me down a path that also created a hard person. You know what I mean? And now I'm going through this Reiki process and I'm doing this healing or whatever it is, and I'm going live and I'm talking to people and I'm doing it to them. And occasionally people ask me the right question. Like I told you, the one question that asked, do I feel safe? And that made safety a pivotal point in my life. Um, the new one has been hard, you know what I mean? And I've been okay with certain aspects of my heart, you know what I mean? Because it's boundaries. It's making sure that you do keep yourself safe. It's all of those things. So I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with the hardness allowing me to be someone I never, ever, ever wanted to be. And now I'm here and I'm in this interview, and these people ask me the right question, and it all hits me at once, and crying in that interview, which is a wild, 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 wild thing. So, a lot of this is just like I said. One, no bull jive. We've been having hella issues with the sound. So I just wanted to try to do something to make sure the sound is okay. So I didn't bring anyone on. And then I also wanted to talk about the idea of anger and people coming to terms with being okay with anger, because at certain situations you rightfully should be angry. Anger is an appropriate emotion. And then I also would like for everyone, including myself, when you think about anger, to remember the other side of that coin. Anger is the neighbor of passion. So you can also take that anger. So come to terms with your anger. Decide on if it's fair or if it's righteous for you to be angry about some of these experiences, and then flip that coin and figure out how you can turn that into a passion, or use that passion. Use that anger and use that passion to create something new. And then also was to talk about hardness. And tonight we may have been calling hardness, we've been calling it hardness, but it also can be boundaries, it can be barriers, like what one of the comments said, it can be thick skin, it can be several different things. Like I said, I'll be called by many different names. Um, that hardness can be called by many different names, but it's still there. And you have to come to terms with that to reconcile the person you wanted to be and to continue on that path to be the person you want to be. You know what I mean? So, as an angry person, I want you all to be okay with your anger. And I also wanted to talk about make sure you are vetting the people that you use to help you do this healing. And I don't really care what their title is. I don't care what their title is. Period. You still do the work to make sure that they've done the work themselves and not just completed the process. Because I'm meeting those people who just go through the process so they can help you, but they're bringing all their traumas and harm to you. And that was it. So I guess this is probably like one of the, what is it, inclusive? Ah, okay. So I have a question. So maybe on a couple of lives I talked about part of my healing process, and one of my healing processes connecting with other men that want to heal. And so I am a part of a men's group, and if you look on my page or one of my social medias, I do have a video about us going camping. So that is the men's group. That literally was my first time going camping. It was an amazing experience. And you know, I'm a black guy, so I was out there. Listen, let me tell you something. True story. My homeboy said one of the dudes who went camping with was like, yo, next time we go camping, we need to take a gun. And my homeboy started laughing because he was like, shoot, Peanut was out there. We had a gun. Listen, let me tell you something. I went out there with a gun, two machetes, and a bow gun. I felt like I had enough weapons out there. I was gonna hand them out, and we all was gonna survive a bear attack, a wolf attack, or whatever. We had a good chance. So I came out there fully equipped. But anyway, I'm a part of this men's group, and we wound up having a meeting every Monday. It's a Zoom meetings, and the men's group is, for the most part, it really is just a place for it is a safe space for men to communicate all the things that they need to communicate. So in those, and be supported with masculine energy who understands. So we've had men cry, and there's men all over the country, and men in all different walks of life, single, married, military, not military, healers, all that stuff. But the majority of us have done some of this process to do some healing, and we in part of that process is making sure we're connecting with healthy male individuals. And we do have a Facebook group, and it is called Brotherhood Strength and Brotherhood. I will probably make a post on my page so you can follow it. And we meet every Monday on Zoom, and we also have a little chat group. Join the Strength and Brotherhood. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna look it up right now so that'd be fair. So you can share. It is inclusive of all males. You definitely. So a person asked me about the group. So I haven't mentioned the men's group in a while. How is it going? It's going. It's going swimmingly well. I wasn't in the Monday call, but I had some other things to tend to. But it's literally it's going swimmingly well. I know for myself. I hell, they've helped me work on my boundary issues. We've had a brother been dealing with death a lot, and I think he actually is finding out that he may follow down the path of being a death doula, for a lack of better words, if you know what that is. But that's just a person that helps you. You know what I mean? When you dying, when you in respite care, he'll be there. And and if it wasn't for that group, he probably wouldn't even have come to that realization. So it is a group of men, black men specifically. We don't have anything else. And we meet every Monday. And give me 1 second. I'm gonna tell you exactly what the name of the group is, and then I'm going to. Hey, forgive me. I'm old. It is strength, wisdom, and brotherhood. Um, yeah, I'll share it on my page. So if you know a male that needs to connect with some other men, and you know what I mean, needs a safe space to be able to talk about male issues, male feelings, male emotions, whether it be just talking trash or whatever, whether it be sports, whatever you want to talk about, suggest them to Strength, Wisdom, and Brotherhood. So yeah, Liberty Brown, tell your people to either reach out to me on Facebooks. I got a story for why I call it Facebooks. Or just tell them to join the group and shoot me a message about who it is, and I'll reach out to him to add him to the chat group. But you can tell him, man, just tap in and see. There's no requirement that you have to be in every Monday meeting, but you know what I mean. At some point, there are points in your life where you need the group every week, and there are points in your life where you might need it once a month or once every 2 months. But that's up to you. So tell them to check us out, and hopefully, all right, because you know I'm always on that bullshit. Hopefully, the sound is finally good. Now I'm just going to.
Go out on that bull. Okay, thank you. Because I know the voice sound crazy, so I did this for you. Normally, um, I do weird stuff like this to mess with Liberty Brown, and she hates it. So this bud's for you. And if Sassy Cat, you on there, it's for you too. All right, so I thank you.
For all your support. I thank you for all your patience. I thank you for dealing with me and my sound issues. It seemed like we finally getting it together. I'm finally getting a little setup that I actually like. I like the full screen setup the most, so you're going to see that. I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your time. I'll see you again next week. Ha ha ha! Sassy Cat, you was on here. Okay, I'll see you next week, same time. And don't forget Thursday. I don't know where we're at. Well, we're on chapter 8, and their eyes are watching God. And listen, that book is out of control. I knew I loved it for a reason, but these people got some of the best jokes to call people. Oh my God. Oh, they got one before I go that I've been thinking about. They got a character. It's ironic in this book, their eyes are watching God, that I never noticed that the men actually do talk a lot about beating their women and killing them, which is wild. But they're talking about this one character who won't hit a woman, which is good, right? And the funny thing is, he got two reasons why he don't hit women. The first one reason is he said women don't have a good place where you can hit them, whether you agree with that or not, blah blah blah. So what? And then the other thing he said that I love, he's like hitting a woman is like stepping on baby chicks, and that's a wild concept, but it pretty much is. It pretty much is like stepping on baby chicks. But anyway, so join us on Thursday, and you can join the book club, read along with me. Their eyes are watching God, or just have me read to you. We're on chapter 8, and I'll see you next week, or I will see you Thursday. Any questions before I go? I'll wait 13 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've been thinking about doing ASMR. 5, 6. Or maybe I should get me like some popcorn and then pop the popcorn with the flat iron. That'd be dope, right? All right, people. I appreciate you. See you next week. Thank you.